Regulation. You love regulation, don't you? Or you don't? How come? Oh, it stops you from doing business. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why do we need regulation? Do we need regulation? In what way do we need regulation? How to implement regulation in your organization. Also, how to deal with existing regulation. Because many people today say we have too much regulation in place. And the question is that actually true? Or is that a made up thing where people just don't like to stick to the rules? Let's talk about regulation. When we talk about regulation, a very important first step is many great things, massive achievements for humankind's life have been done by regulation. We have less people dying at work due to regulation. We have safer housing due to regulation. We have safer food and water due to regulation. So if anyone claims regulation is genuinely bad, the market regulates itself. No, it doesn't. As soon as you say we need no regulation at all, it simply means survival of the fittest, and the fittest usually in this case means the economically strongest, and they set the rules for them and their peers, and anyone else, good luck, your life expectancy might be 35 by next year. So very important here is how to deal with regulation in a reasonable way. When we talk about regulation, the first, of course, we have to look into what is the idea of regulation. Regulation, in theory, is something where people say we put this in place because we need guardrails for the benefit of everyone participating. I give you a very simple example. Let's say you made some money and you want to invest the money. And then you come to me, I'm a bank, and you say, okay, I'd like to give you the money. What is the interest rate and where do you invest in and how can I be sure that I get my money back? And my answer will be, you can get some interest. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not going to tell you where I invest. That's all secret. And at the end, you get your money back, or maybe not. It's at risk. No one knows. And let's speak in 5 years' time. Can I have my money, please? And then you would probably say, look, I'm not investing in this because this is shady as hell. And exactly it is. I'm not investing a single penny of my money into non-regulated assets. I simply work too hard for my money to care so little about it. Of course, when you say, hey, I inherited money. I never know where to spend it. I can't spend it reasonably. Then, of course, you can go into any kind of unregulated industry. However, when you say, oh, it's always a bit of risk, like in a casino, let's say you go into a casino and you want to play roulette, but you do not know what the numbers and the colors are. Somewhere in the back room says, "Oh yeah, this is black and this number, and this is red and this number." But I'm not gonna show you. You have to trust me. Regulation even regulates gambling, so the game becomes, I don't want to call it fair, but at least fairer. It's for entertainment anyway, so it's your choice to do or not do that. And very important is, in theory, the regulation is in place to make everything better for everyone participating in the regulation or being affected by the regulation. However, here comes the problem. In practice, they often do it too much. I give you a very simple aspect which we just had last week. In Germany, Uber now faced another loss of a lawsuit and faces more regulation. When you take Uber, and of course, when you say I prefer taxis, go for it. I'm in London right now. I use black cabs as well. However, I also sometimes use Uber because they are sometimes even more present than black cabs, especially late at night when I go out. I go to electronic music clubs. Black cabs are far less available compared to Uber, so I take Uber then. And Uber goes point to point. So you can go from point A to point B, then from B to point C, and no matter where they stand, they pick someone up. We even have Uber Share. Uber Share, especially popular by young people, it means that people can share a ride on the way, and the ride becomes a lot cheaper by doing so. And of course, Uber can make more money because they can pick up people on the way. That's a very important part of the business model. And by the way, when you say, oh, they're taking clients and customers away from the black cab taxi in London, they don't. Young people, when going out, never took black cabs to get home. When nothing was going and no night bus was around, the option was the illegal driver standing in front of the clubs. And they were all lounging in front of clubs, one car next to another, driving you somewhere for cash in the hand for 10 to 20 pounds. And of course, numerous things happened during that path because you never knew if they were honest or it's another shady driver who actually wants to rob you. So in theory, regulation is good, but in practice now, we have the situation that in Germany, due to the laws, they now decided that Uber has to go back to their base after they did the tour. Let that sink in. So you have a certain base, you drive someone somewhere, and then you have to return to the base. That's not the business model. That's not the business model. And they say, oh, it's like a rental car. And when it's like a rental car, it has to return to the base. That's just the regulation. And we just put it in there on Uber as well. That now, of course, will make any kind of tour with Uber tremendously expensive. And when you now say again, oh, they need to be as expensive as taxis because otherwise anyone is going to walk away from taxis. Maybe people walked away from taxis because service wasn't great, staff there was rude, they were not knowledgeable about the routes, the cars weren't great, and on top of that, maybe the state needs to reconsider their level of taxation for these enterprises and what the costs are of running a taxi company before blaming a disruptor into the market. Of course, certain rules make sense. I give you an example. When I do Airbnb, and just to be fully transparent here, I go with hotels for a very simple reason. I travel a lot, and no matter where I go, I want to have a certain level of quality guaranteed. I work with different hotel chains. I have partner contracts with them, framework contracts with them, and that works tremendously well. I did Airbnb a couple of times, wasn't great. Maybe I was just unlucky. It's just not for me. Also, I need to have certain standards guaranteed and a support system in place, not just an empty room saying good luck from here. Because I'm relying on the internet, I rely on support if anything happens. That all must be guaranteed, including receiving parcels, taking them while I'm not there. I can pick them up from receptionists. All of that not available for Airbnb. And probably Airbnb will say I'm not their customer avatar, and that's perfectly fine. However, when you compete with hotels, of course, you also have to fulfill certain things. What about emergency exits, for example? What about safety and security? What about customer safety and security in case of any hazards appearing? And when you now say, oh, we should just shut down Airbnb, then just another website somewhere pops up where people will share their accommodation if you like it or not. And by the way, then it will be untaxed most likely and unregulated. Things go worse from there. You cannot simply say the answer to any disruptor is regulation. Regulation is good, and that's the conflict here. The conflict is regulation is good as long as it adds to especially one thing. I give you an example. When I sleep at someone else's place, meaning hotel, I want to be sure that everything is healthy. I don't want to get any kind of bed bug or anything. So it needs to be cleaned professionally. And I also need to know that everything is safe, that the place is not going to be burned down by next morning. And if something happens, that there are emergency exits and professional staff in place, anyone who can help me. So regulation adding to safety and security is a great thing. That is not negative. When I invest money into certain aspects, I do it because I know it's regulated and guardrails are in place. Are they perfect? No. But are they useful? In many ways, yes. Not all of them, of course, but many of them. So please walk away from this, oh, regulation is always bad, because besides all of that, you can have that opinion, of course. What do you think the discussion will lead to? Do you think you step up to some department and say, oh, your regulation is all bad? And they will say, oh, thank you for telling us. We will stop doing so. Or do you think they will go into counter aggression and regulate even more? And that's more likely the case. The problem starts when regulation kicks in, and I mean regulation, for example, even from the legal or compliance department internal in your organization. When you say we have this rule in place, and the only thing it does is creating admin. We're filling out papers, no one looks at them, no one does reporting on them, nothing's decided on that. We just do the paperwork and then we walk away. Nothing ever happens with it. And that is the problem. In real application, safety and security is great for everyone participating. However, as soon as administration comes in place, administration, which is nothing else than red tape, needs to be stopped at a certain level. When you find the right level, what you usually do is you institutionalize your approach to regulation. I give you a very simple approach here. When you say institutionalization and you say, oh no, that's just an additional headcount, we don't need that. And still you wonder why do now companies have compliance department and sustainability departments? Let's take the latter. Let's take why do we have full-time positions for sustainability? And I can tell you why. We said for years we need to be more sustainable. I'm now in the sustainable leadership space for decades. And many companies said, yeah, we're sustainable now. And when you then ask them, okay, so what did you do? They say, yeah, we have paper cups in the office. Okay, cool. What else? Yeah, we think about doing paper straws as well. And you think, okay, that's great. What about the more impactful things? Did you step away from, for example, in a small country such as Germany, did you step away from flying within the country to going by train? No, no, no. It's too slow. It's too slow. Then you do the math and show them that from point to point. For example, when you fly Hamburg, Cologne, you are quicker by train, even with Deutsche Bahn delays compared to point, because airports are not where you want to go. And it's really, especially short haul. It's or Hamburg, Frankfurt, 3 hours by train. You can show up 2 minutes before departure and you arrive stayed in Frankfurt. All of that takes way longer by plane. And oh no, it's too inconvenient. There we are. So when did then suddenly organizations become more sustainable and started to have departments for it? I can tell you when. When it became credit relevant. As soon as companies knew my interest rate is relying on me being more or less sustainable, by the way, that applies only for companies in Germany from a certain size onwards. Suddenly, they institutionalized it. When did compliance departments pop up? They usually popped up after the public prosecutor stood at their doorstep and said, I think we found something here and it's going to be really bad from here. Or people spoke up and said, look, we have people dying on construction sites. No one is showing up for work anymore. So if we cannot have a safety and a health and safety inspector around, no one is going to work in the future. And by the way, the building we've built so far, we're going to burn that down by tomorrow. Suddenly, there was someone available. Institutionalization leads to having a proper approach. However, again, it needs to add to everyone's safety, not just create unnecessary admin and being a public nuisance. Of course, regulations can be annoying because we usually say, I really got different things to do, mate. I have something else to do than this. However, whichever person shows up, they usually have the best interest at heart. Also, they have a huge advantage. Let's say a new law comes into place and you wonder, okay, I need to implement this law. How do I actually do that? Usually, your department where regulators are in, they know how to interpret laws. And they say, look, we have this law, these parts do not apply to us, these parts do apply to us. And that means for our real world practice, we need to put in place A, B, C, D, E. So they are able to put into real world practice what you need to do. And this, what you need to do, is a huge, huge advantage instead of just running into errors and then paying fines or even harming people. Of course, when you now combine the implementation of laws with the real practice and you focus on adding benefits for every single person, you can challenge regulation anytime when you see with a valid point that it doesn't create value. Challenge it and then you have a discussion, and usually you find a good solution for that. However, when you see something that adds to safety and security, then you can say that's our best practice approach. And when you find this law to practice best practice approach, then your handling of regulation will be beneficial for everyone in your organization. I wish you all the best implementing this in your organization by hopefully tomorrow. And when you now say, I think I have a couple of questions here, feel free to contact me anytime. So first, of course, feel free to leave a like here when you just watch me on YouTube. When you now probably are on YouTube, just subscribe to my channel or leave a comment here. I'm always happy to discuss with you. And of course, when you now listen to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, feel free to leave a review there. 5 stars. Thank you very much. We invest a lot of time and effort into this to do it proper with proper content, not just motivational, inspirational, chumbawamba. We offer all of that for free, so we're very happy when you give us a positive review here. On top of that, I recommend that, by the way, when you recommend this channel, feel free to do so online, offline, social media, friends, colleagues, anywhere. We love to have more of an audience. At the moment, the ranks are doing very well, but we can always grow more. Thank you very much for doing so as well. We always recommend one more thing. On YouTube, we have something which we only have on YouTube, and that is called the so-called YouTube Shorts. I promised beginning of the year that I will offer leadership tips, 1 tip per day minimum. We are way ahead of plan. It's not only me, but also external experts. For example, we have a Cambridge professor interviewed who is going to talk about the future of AI and regulation as well. On the English channel where you are right now, you can see it. It's just the interview before this episode. So the YouTube Shorts are where you find the best bits in there. So feel free to actually use the YouTube Shorts. They are, as the name says, only on YouTube. The best thing is, do not only subscribe to the channel, but also put the little bell in there, because then you get a tiny bit of a notification when something new pops up, so you're not going to miss out on anything. Of course, you can also follow me on the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Looking forward to seeing you there. When you now say, hey, we need someone for our organization, a trainer, a speaker, a coach, consultant, mentor, a project and interim manager, full or fractional, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Just feel free to go on my website, nb-networks.biz, and then I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you there as well. And of course, on top of that, live sessions. When you want to see our live sessions, feel free to go to expert.nb-networks.com. Put your email address in there, and no worries, you only receive one email every Wednesday morning. It's 100% content, ad-free guarantee. There's full access, no paywall, no nothing, to all the articles, blog posts, leadership articles, press articles. I was just again published in Forbes magazine again last week. So everything is in there, and only via the leadership letter you get the date and the time, as well as the access link for our live sessions. And the next is happening pretty soon, so it really pays off to sign up there. No worries, only one email per week, 100% content ad-free guarantee. By the way, available in the English and German language, more than 500 articles and more already online, including interviews and whatnot else. Looking forward to seeing from you, seeing you there. On top of that, you can of course connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can also, of course, if you prefer that platform, follow me on Instagram or leave a like on Facebook. And of course, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. However, the most important bit is always what I say last. Apply, apply, apply what you heard, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive aspect that you obviously want to see in your organization. I wish you all the best doing so. Feel free to contact me anytime. I answer every single message on any platform within 24 hours or less. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you there. And at the end of this podcast, as well as at the end of this video cast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.